and welcome to today's sketchbook session. My name is Jess, and in this video we're going to finish this sketchbook together with 25 expression drawings. I'll share how I like to go back to basics with a little challenge while learning and having fun. So here's what I'll be using today. I'm craving some graphite, so I prepared a mechanical pencil. I'll be using this blending stump, and I prepared a smaller one for some smaller shapes, a mono zero eraser which I like to draw with too, and I've been loving these jumbo graphite pencils. I have it in a 4B and a 6B. To gently lift off some darker values, I like to use a kneaded eraser for this. It also prevents any eraser shavings from flying around, and of course a sharpener. And I like to slide these right next to my drawing space so that it's right at hand. The subject that I chose to explore today is expressions and emotions. To prep for this, I made a list of a variety of expressions, and then I got together some references that I think would fit, and then I would check it off the list. Since I have the last 3 pages left, a full spread and a back page, I kind of made a little composition in my head and broke the first spread down into 16 heads and the last one to the last 9, just so they could all fit. And here's what I've been loving to do next. If you're someone who has a hard time breaking into that blank page, I highly recommend grabbing a scrap paper and scribbling all over the paper shapes, doodles, random expressive marks. This really helps shake out any random thoughts, fears, and limitations that may appear before beginning. I like to increase the energy with these, and it just helps shake out any of those random thoughts that come up when you start a blank page. We must tackle those and absolutely not let them prevent us from beginning. Think of this as a little warm-up. Once I feel warmed up and my supplies are prepared and also my references, I like to come into my creative practice with a clear intention and getting in the zone with some music. Why set an intention, and what is it in the first place? An intention can be a reason behind what you do, and I've personally learned that setting them provides a clear focus that you need to progress to what you want to achieve. Of course, this can change over time, no matter what it is that you're doing, but I've truly found that beginning with an intention can help you get there, even if the start can feel a bit rocky. For this last pages, I really wanted to intend to practice more children, more facial expressions, and a bit more difficult expressive ones with teeth and things like that. The intentions that I set and the progress that I want to make is solely based on my own progression thus far. Sometimes the intention is just to simply draw or paint with just zoning out, and sometimes the intention is to specifically work on proportions, shapes, and expressive lines. And sometimes it can be a mix of a few. I started off with a smiley expression and then a more peaceful, calm expression to try to create some variety. That was also an intention for this session, and when setting them, it allows you to stay conscious about it throughout the whole process. Once in a while, even from many years of practice and drawing, I feel like I love going back to basics. In fact, drawing is a lifelong journey, and this is actually this month's Patreon worksheet where I have everybody pick a subject, a medium, and complete this challenge. I call these worksheets monthly motivation, and I send them out on the first of each month. It's geared towards anyone who may feel stuck or just not sure on what to draw that month, so this is pretty much my take on it. If you've been watching the channel, you know I am huge on variety and just trying a bunch of different things. So some of the references and also shapes that I chose are to create the most variety and just to see how I can push that throughout this practice. I also intentionally selected different age groups and references of different kinds of crazy expressions to really push that contrast on the spread. I was also really curious to explore all of the emotions we have, as it's part of being human, but more on the concept later. When it comes to picking a subject or picking reference, whether you're drawing from life or from a photo, the subject needs to grab you. So much so that you're so excited to draw or paint. And of course, this will vary from one person to another, and that's what makes it unique. So if you're jumping back to basics, think about what subject you are so in love with, or maybe you could even pick a subject that you have not touched on before. Something funny that I found while drawing these was that I actually began making the facial expressions while I was drawing, and it helped portray that expression, almost as if I was merging with the subject as one. But I was so truly intrigued on the different shapes of the lips and how it can change the whole expression completely. When it comes to any expression, the eyebrows really say so much. Right off the bat of beginning drawing these, I was already learning on how much each shape makes a difference. Dissecting and geeking out on all these things is just so much fun, and I personally love a good old fun challenge, since conveying a true expression in a character is quite difficult, and I'm determined on more ways I can improve. Constraining yourself to one medium, perhaps a pencil or ink, really allows you to focus on the values and just drawing itself without the overwhelm of anything else. Since we're already juggling so many elements and so many things to think about when creating a study or doing a drawing. I've spoken about contrast and light and form on the channel before, but when gathering my references and looking at the lighting, I really wanted it to feel that oomph of variety, so I would try to put some expressions that would completely vary from one another beside each other to create even more contrast. And of course, never be afraid to push those shadows. This video was kindly sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform where you can build your website, your portfolio, and even manage your shop. I love their award-winning templates that make everything seamless and beautifully displayed. And when I was uploading one of my new fine art prints, all I had to do was to drag and drop the images. I've got some close-ups of the print itself, and thanks to the versatile template, I think it looks lovely on the site. I'm constantly finding new ways that I can redesign the website so that it can be seamless and super user-friendly. But after using this platform for years, I can highly recommend you give it a try by going to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/JessCarp for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. There's something so delicate about references and expressions with open mouths or screaming expressions. One small detail can actually throw off the whole thing, but I was really trying to tackle these in these last few pages. And I found myself changing up my approach and playing around with certain things when it came to the other drawings. One of the most important questions to ask yourself is, where is the light coming from? If you're drawing from life, setting up a clear light source will make your drawing way more successful. If you're choosing references with a clear contrast and a clear light source with nice shadows and highlights will also play a huge role in the outcome of your drawings. Setting your images to black and white can really help as well. And once that's clearly visible, you can then play around with different shapes. Sometimes when doing a drawing challenge, I underestimate the amount of work and time it will actually take. And I found that it took me about 7 heads to really get a great flow going. And these next drawings became my favorite. I chose some references of elderly ladies with very interesting, funny expressions. And I immediately had a blast doing these. And all I kept thinking about was how glad I was to start drawing, and how interesting it was to see my vision and the way that I felt about each expression come to life. But perhaps your artwork is simply an extension of you. I was reading a book the other day, and it spoke about realism, creating characters, and just drawing in general what you see. Sometimes we think about literally drawing what we see, but what if we specified it a little more? What if we captured the light that we see, the shapes that we see, and what if what makes something super interesting and just appealing to the eye are actually the shapes that we see? So as I went on with each drawing, I told myself, let's become a shape maker. How can we push and pull certain shapes to make them interesting? How can I make them my own? And how can I capture the feeling that I get? The beauty of art is that we have the ability and opportunity to express ourselves. Even through studies, whether they're just sketches or even more finished pieces, don't be afraid to let your unique voice and your unique expression shine through. With each drawing, with each study, with each time you practice, it sort of begins to find you, as long as you trust the process and trust yourself. Everything from line weight to the shapes that you make, your brush strokes, the way you hold your pencil, all adds to that unique voice. But be patient, because sometimes I still feel like it's a little difficult to tap into that. Try not to get frustrated with yourself. I've learned that just creating a little bit more curiosity and fun, approaching something with excitement really helps, since that puts you in a completely different state of mind where it can kind of appear naturally. Since it's highly requested, let's quickly discuss the way I shade the portraits and how I choose to kind of explore the shapes there. When I begin adding values and shading to the portraits, I like to keep my pencil stable and shade in one direction while adjusting the pressure of my pencil. In the beginning, you saw me kind of do the grayscales. I find that it's the perfect warm-up to get in your muscle memory of that. When it comes to hair or maybe some different accessories, I've been really enjoying playing around with random little crosshatches and line weights. In the previous video, which I'll have linked somewhere above, I tackled some portraits and give some ink tips, and one of the tips was about line variety. This can apply to different mediums as well. Picking and choosing and playing around with that, maybe some more expressive marks, while other areas are a bit more blended, keeps the eye moving around, and it also keeps things pretty interesting. When I finish a certain group, I also like to take a look at everything from afar. Our first 16 are complete, and we have 9 more to go. The pressure and the time kept creeping in as I went on, but I was also loving it so much. And I really wanted to get this all down in one sitting, but then I looked at the clock and many hours have passed by already. But it did feel really good to sit down and draw since I have a lot of other admin things that I've been doing lately. I've also found that using the side of the pencil and then using the blending stump to soften some areas and then go back in with the pencil created a beautiful gradient, and it was great for layering the graphite as well. With the faces that had big smiles or some teeth in it and an open mouth, I treated it as one big shape, and here you'll also see me shading in one big shape for all the shadows that I saw. When I took a sculpting class in art school, we actually learned about the planes of the face. If you just take a look at the skull, there are different planes that help the form turn. Looking closely into that, being aware of that, and using that to shade in different directions can help build the form out and keep the light source consistent throughout. Going back into variety, I felt like stretching out some faces into more long ones and then creating more round shapes, touching into what those feel like, because sometimes more angular shapes feel a bit more stern. So I would add that to more of the expressions, and then when there would be a very smiley, happy face, I would use more friendly shapes like circular shapes. But overall, it was just one big experiment of fun and play, push and pull. What do I make softer? What do I want to bring a little bit more attention to? Just an ongoing conversation in my head, mixed in with a little bit of intuition of what just comes naturally. As I was drawing, I was also beginning to notice how much I underestimated the fact that I would love to draw little babies and toddlers. Although their anatomy is completely different, it was a great exercise and it also made me super happy. I don't know, maybe it's because I've worked with kids before and it reminded me of those times. I've taught kids art and dance, starting from the age of 3 all the way up to teens. And this expression right here just reminded me of the happiness that they go through when they learn something new. Everything is exciting. And yeah, I think it's inspiring for us to keep that energy and keep that spirit when we get older as well. And I've learned that some drawings will always bring you down memory lane when you least expect it. And quite frankly, it made me miss it so much. But yeah, it's pretty normal for me to get in my feels, especially in the creative process. Hopefully, I'm not the only one. I've got to be honest and get a little personal here. Pretty ironically, drawing all these different emotions and seeing these characters come to life made me pretty emotional myself. And times when I resist to begin, in certain moments of the practice, I'm reminded how important it is to just start, because ideas and concepts arise as soon as you begin. Massive action brings things to fruition. And it made me think of a concept and an idea that came to mind while finishing these up, to make room for all of the emotions that we feel. Whether we label them as good or bad, they're all lessons and they all have purpose. And it's what makes us human. Getting to know these characters and their emotions through drawing also got me familiar with my emotions, if that makes sense. I know it may sound silly, but it's true. Sometimes certain emotions can scare us or make us feel frightened that they even are there. But I learned that making room for them, allowing yourself to feel them, is truly life-changing. And remember, it's okay to feel whatever it is that you're feeling. And for all it's worth, just know you're not alone. As I approached the very last drawing, the 25th expression, I wanted to end it with a super silly one, because I also learned at the end of the day, it's not that serious, and just laughing it out and being silly never hurts. I'm also at a point in life where I feel like I'm getting older, everyone around me is getting older, but I still feel super young at heart, and I just want to remind myself to keep that childlike energy, staying silly, having fun with it, and really milking out this last drawing because it felt bittersweet to finish the sketchbook and this little drawing challenge yet again.